Hello and welcome to Hessens County. I'm glad that you could join us again today for another Ttrpg talk. This series discusses tabletop role-playing games and related materials, makes some suggestions for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. History is often used to be introspective. Not only do we use it to think about the subjects surrounding the events themselves, but also in how those subjects and the events relate directly to our personal pasts, our motivations, and our ideologies. History is often used in an attempt to be introspective. Not only do we use history and the events in it to think about the subjects surrounding the specific events in question, but also in how the events relate to our own personal pasts, our motivations, and ideologies. In the Far Horizon Co-op's most recent game, O Morningstar, you're doing just that. Playing as Lucifer or some of the other fallen leaders of the hosts of hell, you use a deck of cards, with each one representing a time in the either past or future of humanity. In each of these scenarios, your characters are either observers or hidden actors embedded in the event in question. You are prompted to consider the different ways that this event reminds you or connects to your group's failed uprising against heaven's judgment in the past. The Morningstar and the hosts are generally seen as having rebelled against God for more than just pride, as can be seen in some literary works like John Milton's Paradise Lost. The Morningstar and their allies are also revolting in an attempt to try to rescue humanity from its seemingly inevitable fall from grace, only to end up serving as a pawn in humanity's downfall, continuing the dependence of humanity on the judgment of heaven. Kind of basically the exact opposite of what the Morningstar would have probably intended. Art included in the manual provided by Carly Allen Fletcher sets the stage in many ways, I feel. It does seem to invoke a feeling similar to that of some watercolor illustrations like those created by William Blake or others when creators were really starting to explore a concept of a potentially complicated or sympathetic devil or Lucifer character in the in sort of like the romantic period of the 18th century. If you'll indulge me with a little bit more of your time, I would like to take a look at like what a particular round of a game might look like in order to try to explore what kind of dynamic this might have at your table. I will be obviously doing this solo. I'm not going to actually play out an event. Like, I'm not going to go that deep into depth with looking at how this works. But you definitely can play this game solo, where you essentially are playing the Morningstar, kind of contemplating about this and maybe including some side characters amongst the hosts of hell that you're basically also role-playing. But if you're playing this as a group, then one of the individuals will take the role of the Morningstar, while other ones will take the roles of other members of the hosts of hell, which might be familiar to those of you who have studied demonology or have read, Paradise Lost or some of the other associated books. So when you are preparing your deck for O Morningstar, you will only want to use the number cards, or in other words, ace through 10, for the hearts, diamonds, and clubs. So there's only 30 events. Those will be your 30 cards that you will pull from. I do want to go ahead and point out at this point that the game was created using a Creative Commons license. So if you did want to potentially create additional events, potentially using the unused spades suit or maybe some of the face cards, that might be an area in which you might be able to expand the game. Each of the events gives you a time, place, a brief description, and a question about how this event connects to the past rebellion against heaven. For an example event, I had drawn the Five of Hearts. This one places us in Chicago on April 4th of 1969 at the official announcement of the Rainbow Coalition. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Rainbow Coalition was a very short-lived union between a wide number of left-leaning organizations all throughout the United States, primarily with a focus on the actual city of Chicago. That used a lot of direct actions like strikes, protests, and community support actions in order to try to combat poverty, corruption, racism, police brutality, U.S. imperialism, like actions during the Vietnam War, and substandard housing that was a major problem in some of the poorer parts of Chicago. The prompt also then proceeds to remind us that the rebellion against heaven required many allies working in concert together. which of these supporters, which of our past supporters, did we doubt would end up joining in our struggle? So if I wanted to roleplay this, maybe I would focus on talking about a particular character and why we thought that that character might not have ended up joining us. So for example, we might talk about how Cain, in his betrayal of his brother and other past events that occurred to him, might have made it feel like he might not be willing and able to join our rebellion against God. Right? So that's just an example of a way around could potentially go if you're playing with maybe 2 or 3 characters. The game will generally end when either you've gone through all 30 of the events, or whenever a particular key event, key element is revealed in the course of the storyline, a player will lay out a token and then note down this sort of fact or particular element that was revealed about their character. And once a character at the table has 5 of those, then the game is over. Thank you all for joining me again for that brief sort of look at Morningstar and how the game might work. I definitely would recommend this for groups who love to explore faith, rebellion, and trying to connect historical events to an emerging related narrative. Thank you all for joining me again today, and do have a good zone.
If you would like to show your support for this channel or for the Hessens County blog, in the description down below you will find links to the channel Coffee and also the itch store. Please feel free to take a look, and thank you for your support.